rolling. We're rolling. All right, guys. Dave, first time on here. We're gonna go easy on you for this one. And number one guess and number two guess. This time we've checked the audio works. The cameras are bought, paid for, not rented out anymore. We don't have cheap bikes. We're all set. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Because we obviously know both of you, I would like Dave to give us his introduction, his elevator pitch of who he is. Why? So, what brought you? I guess from before I met you. I still know very little of the experience before coming to the Elmwood Group. I think transitioning into being more front-facing customer and doing that. What appealed to you to switch from the more on the supplier side and being your what brought you on this side?
Well, I guess Richard helped me on that side, and Luke, and Luke as well. So I guess it's not an avenue that I was actually thinking of coming. Obviously, until Richard and Luke talked to me about it, and then as the opportunity came about, then I'm like, then you really start thinking. Like I've been, I deal with being with Arsenal Brothers. I deal with the home hardware of the world, right? So being on the other side, what difference could I make, right? So really, that's kind of what then I started thinking, what? I could actually make a difference because I know myself what this industry needs as far as like the commercial side of business, right? Steel stud, drywall, ceiling grid, all that stuff. So being in that world literally all my life really kind of helped me. And the more I talk to Richard and Luke, the more I'm like, what, this could be freaking great. This is something we could really like have fun doing. And to be honest, it's going to be a year. I'm almost been hired. Almost a year, and really, I've learned so many things. But at the same time, it's been very easy for me to kind of get in this business because knowing all the products. So really great team, great people to work with. So really, I'm very happy that I made this choice.
How did you find, like, in terms of getting into the network of home hardware? We've talked about it a few times in the past on the podcast. I think a lot of people, when they first think of home hardware, they think of like this big corporation, Canadian owned and all that. But then, we try to preach this as much as we can. It's like our organization is third generation, family owned, started from the ground up. Like this is, started at the mom and pop, one hardware store, moving all the way up. And today seeing it that it's, 250, 260, 270 people plus even in the summertime. How have you found that in terms of, just looking at it obviously from the perspective from the outside, but now being in it, how,
well, I think it's kind of what you just mentioned, like the perception of being at first, when I first started like dealing with home hardware, you think that way, right? The home hardware, national company, almost put the home hardware with the Home Depot, the world, when you come from that side. But when you're actually working for the Elmwood Group and not home hardware, and you see, home hardware is great to be part of, but on the Elmwood side, it kind of gives us another area so we can develop like the commercial side, right? We can kind of go in different areas you want. And literally, like you kind of mentioned, having the support of third generation family, guys like Luc and Ivan that really want to kind of, especially Luke, really want to kind of bring the commercial side of things in this business, makes it exciting because, if they want it, obviously that's what kind of pumps me up to go for it, right? So the support has been there, and being here, that's what you don't realize. It's not so much the home hardware thing you see. It's like the Elmwood Group, the family, the Léger family, right? So that was kind of unique to learn that side of it. It started really from the first day when I met Sarah to do the onboarding. That really opened my eyes. The first hour, and then she's explained the whole story, and it's like, oh geez, I didn't realize there was like much more to know than just you just look at home hardware, right?
Yeah.
That's all you see, the trucks and,
Yeah.
and all that. But
Yeah.
being part of that, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely over the years we've built a lot of different divisions, right? Different opportunities. As the market shifts, we always try to keep adapting to it, right?
Yeah.
So just like recently, talking about a bit commercial, home hardware has a great foundation of residential business. Moncton had a underserviced business for a long time in the commercial side.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing more and more frames, we're seeing more concrete buildings and steel studs, drywall, etc. So, to keep that one-stop shop, we had no choice to keep adapting to the market and open up, a division of it.
Yeah.
And just to be that one-stop shop, create that customer experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I think that's what makes the Elmwood Group successful is we see an opportunity in our market, we adapt to it, and we're able to to build a brand around it. And having the flexibility of home and that openness of home and doing what they do with that support just helps us be that much better, right?
Yeah. Now, Kyle, at this point, it feels like you've been here for 1 billion years.
Fair enough.
Billion years for a home hardware family.
Are you feeling the same quick transition in terms of even the portfolios that of clients that you have currently, and even just even their transition into other stuff? Or are you seeing new clients pop up that are like, oh shit, this is not what I used to do 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're going in a completely different direction. How does it feel today?
Well, I think for people in my position, it's the clientele is largely remained the same. There's a lot of new guys too, but the market needs have changed a lot. So, for example, commercial clients of mine that had traditionally done smaller fit ups and restaurant renovations, that kind of stuff, all of a sudden are doing large scale buildings, right? So it all kind of moved in the same direction as our company has, right? So for me, I got more and more involved in the commercial side as years went by anyway, to the point that when this became a necessary division for us, it was all of a sudden I had extra support. And, with Dave and his colleague Jason, I was able to all of a sudden sell categories that I wasn't previously selling or wasn't as familiar with. And a lot of it has to do just with the way that the area has grown, right? I mean, Greater Moncton is, absolutely exploded the last few years. Yeah. So now it's, we have more and more tools to kind of adapt to these ever-changing needs. And now that commercial piece has become obviously a huge piece of what we do.
So with that said, from the position that I'm in, I'm still sensing that there's a lot of opportunity in the residential world. However, is the nature of where we need the most labor or the most attention to, is it taking away from that residential and really making the focus mostly just commercial projects? How's the industry looking, especially in Moncton right now?
I think recently, actually, just because of what's happening in the world, I guess we're seeing a lot of interest rates actually go down.
Okay.
So I find that what I'm seeing is the last few years, people have been waiting. Homeowners are waiting, say, living in that duplex, just waiting to build that home, and because of interest rates were very high.
Right.
And now that things have started coming down and dwindling down, we're actually seeing a lot more residential people reaching out and looking for house plans, estimates, kind of more traction on that end than just the multis as we've seen the last few years.
Yep.
Right.
But we're still seeing on the multi side as well. But it's nice to see that residential piece come back, because I truly think the residential homeowner wants to, a home is one of your biggest parts, one of your biggest purchases of your life for many people. So and it's very important for them, and to be to have a good experience while doing it. And I think some of them have been waiting for a long time, and now they're more excited than ever that they'll be doing it, and they're probably in it for the long term.
It's kind of funny, the phases. We go in phases here, right? You notice and the residential market's been probably down, I would say, the last couple of years. Now that grew obviously because the interest rate went up. The multi-res blew up here, right?
Big time.
The immigrants and people, even people that lived here before that went out west are coming back because they feel, this is more affordable. There's more jobs.
Well, those that never lived here too, like migration was a huge factor too, right?
And what's going to happen here? The commercial is still not on its top peak boom because you got like the fisheries building they're building.
Yeah, true.
Like with all these people, you're going to need more schools.
Yeah.
The hospitals, they can't take like these things are going to grow, right? Shediac is going to grow. So, and then again, the multi-res. At the end of the day, people want to move in a house, right? So living in an apartment your whole life is not really key. They want to start a family. The interest going down is going to grow the residential. So we could see a big boom in the residential too because of the growth of the commercial side, right?
Yeah, if anything, you might see like residential, the new families want to get into residential, obviously, and biting the bullet and saying, I'm here for 20 years and I'm just going to, we'll be here for a long term versus like the 10-year term that you typically see in the past.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, really if the commercial side would be more for the retirement. I don't want to cut my lawn maintenance, cutting my lawn, all that, that yard maintenance you have to do. So a lot of people are moving towards that saying, the kids are out of the house. I want to kind of, dwindle down and, take my money and start traveling, enjoying it, my retirement and whatnot. So
that's me.
I think it's that.
I'm 47 in a condo and I have to cut my lawn.
Got it all figured
perfect.
out.
Yeah, no, I did the whole house thing, sold it. I love what I do. Now I can travel more. To
exactly
your point.
right. So and that's we're seeing a lot of that. So it's interesting where it's all going, and or you got some like for my father, for example, my parents, they they built a house back in 2006. And I grew up in there. Wanted to, they were like, do we sell it? Do we keep it? They actually renovated more the inside of it.
Right.
And they said, you know what? We're actually to keep it for the next generation. So when the family suppers, my kids are old enough that they want to come in and they'll say, well, you know what? That family room downstairs with the pool table and the theater room. Well, it'll be their memories that we made. That I made as a kid, growing up there with my friends, right?
Yeah.
But I'll be the parents upstairs and there would be the kids downstairs, and that's what it used to be. So you're also seeing some of that in the market too, that, some parents saying, you know what, I'm going to keep my house for the next generation that I want to pass that, that family experience down too. So it's interesting where it's kind of going.
Yeah. Now, are we seeing, like, you made a really good point just a few minutes ago, when cities grow, the public sector has to follow suit, right? You need the hospitals, you need the schools, you need, like, are we, being in the positions that we are, there are people that are contacting us to get pricing on materials, quote jobs, stuff like that.
Yep.
Are you seeing hope with projects like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I've heard like Shediac is your next boom.
Okay.
Obviously there's no English schools up in Shediac, so there's talks of doing that.
Okay.
That's going to be your next thing that's going to fall in that area, and that's going to help obviously grow that area as well. I mean, to me, we talked about a hospital, right? Like, I was born in 1977, born at the city hospital, right?
Don't say that.
No, I know.
You're all good.
I know. I feel young. I'm proud to say my age.
Yeah.
But anyways, born in the city hospital, right? So you go there, it looks the same. Obviously, there's a couple of renovation stuff, but the growth since those years to now, it's crazy. Like something's gonna have to give, right? They're doing additions and stuff, but the government's not gonna be able to sustain the growth here in Moncton. So, my opinion, I think they're a little behind. I think you got to be on top of this, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that and that's gonna come, right? So it's just so definitely just by common sense, like you're gonna need it, right? So
But you're seeing it now, like with the Dumont Hospital, for example, has had numerous additions like the last few years, and
you're right.
And now the city, of course,
Right.
there's a few ongoing and some other ones planned, right? So, it's the last few years just kind of seemed like that uptick in terms of infrastructure in the Greater Moncton area, and it's just going to keep increasing, right?
Well, the federal building, the fisheries building, like I talked about, that's a 10-year. That's a 10-year project,
Huge.
right? So that's huge. It's just the beginning. You're seeing the crane right now, but that's a big project, and that's going to bring a lot of jobs, and it's so that's a true commercial building, right?
Yeah.
So that's why that, to me, when I see those kind of projects, that's exciting. And we live kind of the greatest place in New Brunswick. We're centralized, so that's what's always nice to know, that we're in the best area to grow too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Now, hopefully, out of all four of us, I'm not the only one that only found this out probably like a couple months ago, but I didn't know how they pop the cranes up. And I only found it. Do you guys know how they pop the cranes up?
Actually, being in it, I've never actually seen
Couldn't tell
how
you.
they put the crane
No,
together.
he's
I seen it
you
on
got
the
it forward, perfect.
I saw
No,
it.
no.
I seen it on
Like-
the truck, and the next thing I know, it was there.
That's it.
Okay,
That's
okay.
it. Being in all these construction sites, I literally never seen.
Oh
the
my god,
crane go
Google
up.
it after like it. In all my life, I was always like, okay, there must have been another bigger crane that picks up this crane, but I'm like,
Like a
but how do you
Russian
get the other crane? And then I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
no, it's a helicopter. So the helicopter, I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, that's way too heavy for the helicopter. But there's this like mechanism that like they pop up. They'll put in like the first part, and then they kind of levy up, I think, up to a certain point with a boom, and they put it in, and then there's this mechanism where it's like it goes up with hydraulics, and then it has a little gap, and you put a piece in, and then from there it puts it all the way up again,
Oh,
and
so
you push it
that's
back
how
in.
it
So
extends.
it stacks
Okay,
all the way
okay.
up, and I was like, it makes so much sense, but I would have never guessed.
Yeah, because
Never.
they can just kind of pop up overnight, is what
Yeah.
it seems
Well,
like, right?
it is
Like,
true.
where did that
Like
come from?
the most I've seen is the base.
Yeah.
And the base, obviously, you go in an apartment building, you see the base ready to go.
Hey.
As soon as you blink, it cranes up.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I know.
like I've never seen it
So I
in
was
action.
thinking helicopters. There.
Yeah,
Thinking
yeah, the
snowboarding.
military Sea Kings bringing in these
Yeah.
type
You were
of
thinking
Aliens.
snowboarding trip, weren't you? It's helicopters, heli.
Actually, I thought of this a few weeks ago, but like my kind of introduction, I guess, I've been doing it for a while, but like really in a commercial job site was riding like a temporary elevator. So like the guy in the radio on the first floor would call for the radio to come down.
cage there?
Yeah, myself and all the trades would get on. We'd go up like 26 stories 'cause we had to go up measure some doors, right? Like I get in this thing and I'm thinking like,
Am I in a movie?
yeah, well, exactly. I was thinking like some of the Marvel movies like Daredevil
Yeah.
or Punisher
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
these construction sites that they're always using to film in. It was kind of cool to be a part of that, actually.
I actually been in one in Halifax, and it was like not the greatest experience in mine. It took me like literally like
kinda
30
rough.
minutes. Yeah, 30
Yeah.
minutes to get to my. And they stopped every floor and picked up. I'm like, am I gonna get to my floor? Like, I need to go to. No, you'll
Yeah.
get there.
You can take
you'll
the
get there.
concrete stairs,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
want to walk
you
for a
can.
week afterwards, right?
Oh, trust me, I did the Laffer stairs up and down the
Oh.
15 floors. Holy
And that's
man,
15.
that's
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah.
I find if you I haven't been in one, but I'm trying to envision it. But it probably feels like the zipper at the Shediac Lobster Festival there with the cages just rolling around.
You're like, oh no, this is gonna end
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Where and I think I saw this. I would like to say this weekend I saw some resurfacing or some next step, and I think it was because Dawn Arnold, she's gone on to
Yeah.
the Senate, been elected to the Senate, and but they were saying about the 19-story building. That's kind of like I think in the process, almost done and
By
ready to kind
Staples?
of by Staples.
Yeah.
Icon,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, the Icon building.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, my understanding, I think, and they were going to finish their 3 buildings in Riverview
Mhm.
and then
Okay.
shoot over there and,
Okay.
and start that building.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of buildings coming out. Like
Okay.
Richie's
Okay.
is supposed to put one
Okay.
behind the Gahan house.
Okay.
So there's supposed to be one over there.
Okay.
There's some plans for Ashford's to build a bunch of high rises behind the where the courthouse is, right behind. The,
Oh, right,
the-
because they have all the
well,
parking lots. in the
they
city.
have all that land behind
Yeah.
here. That's why they're doing all the city's doing all that infrastructure back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Gotcha.
because it's a bunch of high rise, and Lafford is doing 2 more, obviously across the street of,
Right.
of the 3. So you're gonna start seeing these buildings go up. Like
Yeah.
we're a little behind. Like Halifax is head of the game here because
Yeah.
they've been doing for quite a while. But
Yeah.
Moncton, I can see Moncton in a few years being like the mini Halifax kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
think
start
that-
seeing these high rises.
Yeah, and I think like those type of buildings, like of the Icons and the Laffords, those are buildings that are now changing the landscape
Yeah.
of how Moncton,
yeah.
downtown Moncton looks,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
Right.
they're now the ones that are ahead of the game, and then everybody else will obviously is gonna follow, which is really good because I truly think that with Moncton, the downtown, the river, the waterfront, the walking trail, I think Moncton needs a new revamp, and
Mhm.
I think from what I've been hearing and talking to a lot of people, they've there's a lot of good things happening in the downtown core. There's really good
Yeah.
people that are working into the sectors and the groups and the to try to move the downtown Moncton. I think
Yeah.
it's called like downtown Moncton is a
Yeah.
is
They got like a little.
they got a little
organization
organization, and I think from what I'm hearing, it's exciting stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it.
It's kind of exciting to see like Moncton grow. Riverview is growing quite a bit as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Dieppe, we went to the meeting in Dieppe at the city.
Dieppe,
There's
There's people from the outside that are really looking into Moncton as well.
yeah,
It's
so
interesting.
you're gonna start to see a lot like the commercial development in Dieppe there by the airport. They're supposed to have all kinds of stuff going over there. That's going to be exciting to see.
Okay.
Obviously the Caledonia Park area, even by the highway there by Harrodsville, they're developing that whole area as well. So you're going to start seeing a lot of manufacturers come to Moncton. So that's exciting to see.
And that's the thing too, is that there's a lot of opportunity for distribution, right? Like you've seen the Walmart distribution center that's coming. That's
Well, that creates
massive,
jobs, right?
Right.
Like it comes as jobs. If industrial parks grow, adds more homes, adds more doors.
That's
off it goes, and yeah, that's good.
Yeah, on the Riverview side too, actually, like the Riverview Mall redevelopment. So most of that malls is going to be torn down.
Yeah.
There's talk of a Starbucks going there, and A&W.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's
I
going
did
to
not
be
know that.
completely redeveloped, and that's long overdue. I mean, that's been a they call a dying mall for a number of years,
Are they
right?
keeping the Fox and Hound?
They so
Good question. I was exactly thinking the same thing. I'm like, what's going to happen with
That's
Fox
it.
and Hound? That
Riverview
was so good.
staple.
So it's either going to stay where it is, or they'll have the opportunity to be a part of that redevelopment. So
Okay.
in some form or another, it's
Okay.
expected to stay. So that's all I know thus far. But yeah,
This is one of my favorite
yeah, that
spots,
collective
actually.
concern that was cool.
Yeah,
I still remember that mall going to the movie theater over there when Moncton
There was
had 3 movie
right,
theaters. You had the
yeah.
Capitol Theater was one. Yeah, Riverview had one.
Yep.
And then where was the third one there? I'm trying to
Well, there was one downtown at one point.
Man, you really love showing your age, eh?
Well, I know. I'm actually still showing that, but I'm proud of
the
that.
best part is,
like
he
the
thinks
memory.
like a young guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right.
Not like these 2 young pups. Actually,
Yeah,
they're a little
yeah.
older, right?
I'm getting grayer by the day, bud.
You're not
Yeah.
older.
Getting
You're
grayer
just
by the day.
wiser. You're just wiser.
Wiser. It gets,
There we go.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in Riverview, like I think the transition is going rather quickly with Andrew in charge and wanting to make it easier for developers to look at multi-residential and changing these these lots that have been zoned for oh no, we're just doing single detached and things like that. That's obviously changed.
Yeah,
quite a
well,
bit.
and actually, I was fortunate enough that Andrew tapped me to sit on a couple of town
Sweet.
committees. So,
yeah.
so I get to sit on 2 committees wherein I kind of see what's going on and what's on the docket and participate in the process of accepting or refusing some of these developments, right? And it's pretty incredible how much stuff's going on. It's hard to keep track of it all, quite honestly.
well, it's great to see that, guys like you in the industry are able to attend those things and help move that forward, right?
Yeah.
Versus just maybe somebody that
the same
doesn't
old guard that was there
or there's
always,
whatever that type of thing is really people, those committees like that. That's how you change, and that's how you actually create.
Yeah.
That's right.
A lot of new development and a lot of new homes. Removing that red tape is
Right.
one of the key things.
Helps us to be ahead of the game as well, right? So we know
100%.
these projects, so you can go ahead and show what Home Hardware or the Elmwood Group can offer you, right? Like for us, products are limitless, right? If there's something you want, we go and we look for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what makes it kind of
Well,
exciting.
that's that backing of Home Hardware I was mentioning, that the opportunity that when you call a supplier, you're looking for anything. If you're looking for pillows, for example, we have the opportunity to find pillows. Like we have in our Magnetic Hill store, Carol Babker, one of my our store manager told me one day, he said, I can't believe a customer walked in, needed 150 pillows. She said, yeah, 1 second, give me a few days. Next thing you know, she found 150 pillows at the specific model. Like, wow, who would have guessed? So it's just like those odd items. I mean, we're sitting here in a furniture store that we're talking about pillows for, but a home hardware
We're all
store,
here.
I know, but a home hardware store finding pillows for a gift or whatever it was.
Yeah.
She went above and beyond to find it, and the home hardware umbrella was able to offer that. Right, so that's what it makes exciting about the, like you just said, the home hardware brand.
Yeah, that's
everybody
what it
being
is.
able to get. Like you can
like
really
being here. I think one of the things what I love is actually shopping here. Me and my wife is like, oh, let's go to Home Hardware and see what's next. I obviously support our own stores, right? Because I feel there's a lot to offer, right? So for me to be a big believer, even personally, in my own personal life, I think it's a big thing, and that's why gives me that extra incentive to go out there and tell people about it
Well, that's the best way to sell stuff too. Like, so
Like,
somebody
you gotta
asks me,
believe
like,
it.
"Oh, is this thing any good?" Well, I have it and I love it. Okay, great.
That's right.
That's the best
endorsement.
review, 5-star review.
It
There.
is. It
Now,
is.
last time that you were here, Kyle, we had touched up on your involvement with the CMHC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Well, with the Canadian Home Builders Association, CHBA. Yeah.
And I don't remember if you were going or you had just come back from Ottawa, but I'd like to get a little bit of your thoughts on, that was it's going to be almost a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Wow.
Coming back from that meeting and sitting here today, do you feel as though the conversations that happened there are coming into fruition in our market or in the market in general?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the timing of this conversation in particular is interesting because I was just asked a week ago to return to Ottawa on a regular basis with regards
Is that
to...
approved, Luke? Vacation approved?
Vacation approved. Sorry.
Vacation,
Yeah, so I'll be participating in meetings regarding the state of our industry in terms of how it relates to tariffs and supply and demand and what we can expect going forward. So but much like a lot of things over the years, they kind of start out west and move their way east. Well, all the things we talk about in Ottawa and in other parts of the country where I've traveled, where we discuss the housing crisis, that's a coast-to-coast problem. North, south, east, west, doesn't matter, right? So trying to find creative solutions to tackle those problems and also bringing experience from the East Coast, taking to a place like Ottawa and saying, okay, well, out east we're building a ton of these, right? Or we need more of these. And that leads to discussions about, multi-res developments, tiny homes, like just anything ever you can imagine, right? So, but yeah, one of the best parts to be able to take what people tell you in other parts of the country and bring it back here and kind of compare it and try to learn a few things too.
Though. I mean, I find sometimes the rest of the Canada, they forget about Atlantic Canada.
Oh,
yeah,
Like,
not for the longest time,
so
yeah.
It's like, you going up there and, well respected and, well understanding the industry will definitely, kick like Atlantic Canada, up a notch, right? So
yeah, that's the idea, right? You're going to be proud of where you're from and try to represent it as best you can. But yeah, it's and again with the migration we talked about, so many people moving here now, and still especially from Ontario and some other places, it's like it's viewed a lot differently in Atlantic Canada than it used to be, right?
It's kind of awesome that we're kind of like the stars of Canada now, really.
Yeah.
That's the way you look in the news, and we're biggest growth.
We're no longer a secret.
No. Hey,
No.
come on. The ocean's right here. Like I don't understand why we were such a.
Let's say if we
secret
wanted, we
before.
probably shouldn't talk about it on a podcast. But
Well, it's funny because I've been for the last 3 years I've been doing trips out west, and every time I'm sat on a chairlift at a ski resort and I say where I'm from, everybody's been. And they're like, oh, I went up to Carricketta, I had the seafood, it was lovely, we had a great time there and all. So sometimes I think we forget that while something that you stay here for so long becomes so ordinary to you, it's actually a pretty special place, right? And the things that we have here, although they're not I go out west to go to the mountains. Well, there's still little ski hills here, right? And you're able to, ski during the winter and then go to the ocean during the summer, right? I don't have a boat yet, but
well, my buddy Jim.
It's been a long time. I grew up with one, so I always grew up into it. If I look at it today to get back into it, I don't know if I'd be up to that time.
My buddy Jim Gaudreau that you met when he was here. So he lives just outside New Hampshire. So he'd come up. We went down Sports Fun Day, and he was just glued to the window looking outside. I was like, oh my God, it's beautiful up here, right? We take that stuff for granted.
No, it's amazing. Like I grew up here.
Yeah.
I moved to the U.S. when I was 19, 20 years old. Lived there for 13 years. And then coming back, right, it's like, at first a little nervous because in the States, high pace, everything, entertainment. I mean, if you want something, it's there, right? So coming back to the smaller communities, like, okay, well, but now I'm starting to see kind of the best of both worlds here, right? You're starting to see kind of how fast it came, so you can get a lot of stuff, a lot of entertainment and stuff, but you still got the beautiful, it's not busy here if you go to the U.S. versus, right? It's very wide.
You can still go anywhere around you want. It used to be 7 minutes, now it's 15.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
It used to be 7 minutes around anywhere around the tri-cities, and now it's maybe 10, 15 now. Depends on traffic,
5 years ago, I would have been late today.
So, when you look at the 15 minutes, well, guess what? Shediac is 15, 20. So what the heck,
it is.
right? So that's
it
why
is.
we're seeing that, that area keep growing.
10, 15, 20 years from now, it'll probably be connected to Moncton.
I
at
know.
this point.
Yeah.
Like it's at the growth
There's
that
lots
they're
of land in
going.
between.
Oh,
so.
for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely can see that.
The old
that
Shediac
kinda
Road might
happening.
not be the old Shediac Road anymore. The
Yeah.
new Shediac Road.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You say Greater Moncton, you know, you got Riverview and Dieppe, but I could see Shediac being part of that whole area, right?
But you know what? Like I think it's and we're all as we're talking about this, I think we're in a really good position working in the industry to know that like right now is a good time to have been here for so long, but to continue to stay here because we're like, okay, we're seeing like, okay, there's investment in the commercial products, the investment in, you know, these high rise, like the landscapes changing, the investments there, the new players are coming in, the distribution centers, that stuff there.
Yep.
I think that's exciting, and then it also encourages you in being like, okay, well, although with, you know, all the tariffs and everything that's going on in the world right now, we have still some uncertainties. I think there's still a lot of really good things happening here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%.
So obviously I didn't want to get this, but there's at this point I just gotta stop saying it because there's no way I'm not going to make this political because we just can't. But how are you, like, you know, today and as we, by the time we air this episode, which will probably be in a week's time, I think we're starting to see you know, it's almost like bullying at this point. Have you, you know, in terms of the materials that we bring in, or the builders that you're talking to, or just the conversations that you're having in general with friends or family or things like that, how are you feeling about where we're at today?
Oof, where to begin?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like tariffs and that kind of stuff?
just,
Like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, if I may, obviously there's a lot
Absolutely.
of there's a ton of discussion about this, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
I get asked between 1 to 5 times daily about tariffs and what they may mean, or what the current political climate could mean for us.
Yeah.
Theoretically, there's an easy answer for most product lines, but practically, this is very unprecedented, right? A lot we're dealing with. So, for example, on the lumber side, if we're not exporting as much wood, that would typically mean our market gets flooded and prices would come down. But that's not necessarily the case, right? Because this is, again, an unusual thing.
Yeah.
And the easiest thing I can say, I guess, in terms of some personal philosophy, is that there's a lot of fragile egos involved.
Right.
So anytime that's the case, people are not, you know, when emotion runs high, logic runs low, right?
Yeah.
So tariff, counter tariff, and I'm going to do this, well, I'm going to do that. And even today, as every day, something that's been threatened is now being repealed, right?
Yeah.
You know, Justin Trudeau made a great comment about that when he's, you know, how do you deal with like a day like today? He's like, it's Thursday, right? Or whatever day it was that day. So to that point, we just kind of take it a day at a time and you know, respond accordingly as insofar as we can, and you know, just kind of roll forward from there. But every day's been different, and maybe by the time that this airs, it's a completely different answer. But as of right now, it's, you know, just keep an eye on things and manage it the best you can.
Well, the answer I get from manufacturers that we deal with is just, you know, like I said, just take it day by day. There's no change. You know, like, because the unknown, the uncertainty, they can't go out and do anything right now, or you know what I mean. They're still feeling kind of. I mean, we got some memos or some emails from some other manufacturer that like Trimtex, for an example, that's made in the U.S. We got an email saying that there will be an increase because of tariffs, right? So there's certain products that will feel the effect, or we gotta buy better, or trying to avoid those things. But our biggest, you know, like Imperial or Certainty, like our biggest volume, they're telling us like it's basically a wait and see and and see what happens, right? So
I think you know, another thing is, in the industry in Canada, a lot of products are actually Canadian made, roofing, insulation, drywall, you know, etc. Wood, pressure treated wood, like you name the big categories, and a lot of the products are actually made in Canada. Yes, there's U.S. competitors that have a roofing categories, a couple companies that come from the U.S., but we have two main companies in Canada that are made in Canada. So that should not affect anything there. But what I was told was basically if the raw material comes in from the U.S.,
that's where
you might get that percentage there, not the entire product. So if a raw material, let's say there's 10 items to make a product, and one of those items come from the U.S., you can only be able, the 25% might only get tagged on that one product, that one imported product, but of the 10. So I think you'll see a small increase, but we shouldn't see too much of a crazy, or unless there's whatever they decide to do, I guess, how it is. But like I said, I think the day by day is, but we're lucky to have a we're not
Yep.
trading a lot with the U.S. Really, in Canada, we have a lot of products that are made in Canada for
Yep.
our industry to build homes.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down, like as you said, like the virgin materials, right, where they come from. But one of the benefits of all the chaos of like COVID, for example, is that a lot of manufacturers started sourcing material differently because it was such a struggle to get, right?
Right.
So, for example,
Yes, yes.
resins to build like acrylics, so like vinyl windows, acrylic tub showers, whatever. Those materials are now sourced a lot more locally than they once were, right? They're
Right,
petroleum based. We have a ton of oil, so we're fairly self-sufficient
That
in that
definitely
respect.
helps,
But
for sure,
because it was so chaotic then, a lot of companies had to say, okay, we need to change the way we do business, and that's actually beneficial when we're dealing with a political climate like this one, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that scares me a little bit is there's gonna be some manufacturers in there that will take advantage, like the COVID situation, right? Some kind of inflation
Prices go
went
up, they never come down.
It never goes down, and
Yep.
they're gonna find a way to get some more money out of the end user and the consumer, right? I think.
and the worst part is the consumer that
it's
suffers
always the consumer that
for
suffers.
a, not the right reasons, right? Like where did humanity go?
Well, that's what
Where
I
did,
mean.
like at the end of the day, where did humanity go?
Well,
We're all on this
yeah.
together.
Inflation's a real
Like-
thing. Like,
But
it's
and
a
that's
real
the whole thing with these
especially-
tariffs, right? It's like tariffs hurt everyday people. That's the only people they really truly hurt is the end user.
I watched a video just before coming here of the press
What's your
secretary.
opinion, John? Let's talk about that. We're done. We tell ours. How about yours? You have a degree
Yeah,
in
good
political
point. Good
science.
point. Yeah, that's right. You seem to have a good
Well,
point.
he's got the degree. I don't.
listen,
We
a
just,
good
you know,
opinion on this. Let's hear it.
For the sake of just talking about like common sense principles when it comes to tariff is, so let's look at it historically. The last time that the United States put tariffs in place, they went into a recession,
It's a big
a
one.
deep recession
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yes.
It was horrible. So I'm like, history tends to repeat itself.
Oh, yeah,
pretty,
100%.
pretty well,
Nothing
right?
good comes out of a tariff. Like
Well,
there's no like.
It's
I'm
just
still trying
like,
to figure it out.
And then from the next perspective of common sense, like anyone that's ever tried to start a business wants to make money, right? So if you're saying, okay, well, I want to make bread. So the bread maker has to go get, he has to find a wheat supplier. So the wheat supplier is in another country. Well, if there's a tariff on the wheat and you have to buy wheat at, it used to be $6, now it's $8, you're still going to want to make money as a business owner. Well, the bread goes up in price. Well, the customer pays for the bread.
Yeah.
So where does this tariff thing solve any problems? And listen, there is on the other side, and I will respect that argument, which is, well, it's to, promote doing the things inside of the country so that we don't have to rely on other places. I'm like, you literally don't have those things in place currently, did not have a plan before 60 days ago.
Yeah.
No, I know.
And now, okay, so it's like, we were talking about earlier with your dad with the steel manufacturing with the cars. I'm like, do you know how long it takes to change the processing of fabricating a car in one country and then creating it in another country? I'm like, by the time it's all solved, it's said and done, people are trained and it's ready to go, we're 2032.
Well, the perfect example is when obviously, the leader on the South says that, there's plenty of trees. We're just going to cut our own trees.
They have
man.
softwood.
Yeah, but
It's all yellow
They
pine.
have softwood. They
That's
don't have
what I mean, but-
hardwood.
but
you
there's-
can't build houses with softwood.
there's no thinking before the reaction. I think that's what's frustrating when we see these things happening, right? So it's like, and I hate when they use, and going on vacation, going to the U.S. and hear my uncles, and because you hear the different perspective, right?
Yeah.
But you go there and they say, oh yeah, you're a 51st date, and I hear this whole thing. Well, Donald Trump is trying to do that because all the fentanyl and immigration. Do you know any immigrants that's actually going to the U.S. right now? Or the fentanyl thing? I'm so sick of hearing that. If you
Well,
actually look at
okay,
the statistics, there's barely nothing going there.
Who controls the flow of fentanyl going from Canada into, who controls that border going into the U.S.?
Right.
The
Good
U.S.
point.
Border Patrol.
Good
Yeah.
point.
So what did we do?
Yeah.
I know.
And
on
Actually, I
that,
never thought
and
about that.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So last year there was they said there was a 2,000% increase in fentanyl going into the country. Well, 2,000% is 43 pounds of fentanyl that went into the U.S. from Canada in 2024.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the amount of fentanyl fits on this table.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Well, the more he gives the message, and that's a credit I'll give
Nobody
him.
fact
Like he's
checks.
very good at showing the same message even though the message is not true,
Yeah.
people believe it after a while, right? Oh,
Yeah.
well, it must be true because he's saying it all the time, right?
yeah.
Well, it's the thing, like, oh, we don't need their wood. No, you absolutely need the wood that we manufacture.
100%
That is
need
not
it.
debatable.
Yeah.
It's a stone cold fact. So moving on.
Yeah, I think this is going to be your podcast that probably have the most comments on YouTube going down of this subject. So on that, we'll let you manage the comments.
Oh yeah, no, good
Me
point.
as the owner, I'm going to call up.
I mean,
and to move on. But it was good. Thanks for bringing it up. It's always the political
It
climate
seems
that
we all
have,
have the same
and-
opinion, so we'll see
No,
what the
it's
pushback
just-
against.
It's
it.
a touchy subject.
We
Right
need
now,
a
and
good
it's
trade
just we
agreement for
gotta-
both countries' sake. It's that simple, right?
100%.
So
We have to stick together in it and just make sure that the consumer feels it less.
Now, in terms of just when you look at the construction industry and the potential of prices going up and all of that, are you seeing any immediate things that you are being careful about that people it might raise some alarm bells? Like I'm thinking on maybe the commercial side, like you're thinking steel studs and things like that. Is that is concrete an issue, like, or is it like, what, like in Canada we're doing a lot of those things already?
Not on the commercial side. All our
Yeah.
products are basically made in Canada. Is that yeah? So
Yeah.
like steel, we use imperial sheet metal that's made right in Rishbuktu. They're even the raw material they get in Canada, right?
Okay.
So CertainTeed drywalls manufactured here in Canada.
yeah.
Insulation's manufactured in Canada. Other than like Trimtex, it's a product that's made in the States, but there's alternate products to that, right? It's a corner bead, a plastic, but you can go to a paper corner bead or a metal corner bead that's produced here in
the
Canada.
US
So,
we
so
were
there's
told
always
same thing,
something
right,
you
for-
can.
Same thing. Like composite decking is one big one.
Yeah,
That in
right.
the U.S. that coming in because it's all made like I think there's only one manufacturer that's actually proudly made in Canada. So they probably have a competitive advantage right now into the Canadian market because they're actually made in Canada across Canada.
Okay.
But most of that one's coming over. Just like so, it seems like the U.S. has a very strong resin plastic
Yep.
system in manufacturing
They
down
do.
there because Trimtex is a plastic manufacturing, same as composite, all that kind of stuff. So it seems like that product's getting really that raw material, that resin is really getting affected.
So I'll tell you a quick story on that because there was a customer last week that actually they sent specification about a ceiling tile, right? It's kind of our department. So there's all kinds of ceiling tiles, and it was an Armstrong ceiling tile that was spec. The architect had spec Armstrong. Now they're going back. The architects are going back to trying to find Canadian-made products, right?
Okay.
So the question was sent to me saying, "Hey, is there an alternate product, an alternate ceiling tiles that's made in Canada?" Right? So
with that design or
with the similar design that we can actually now the grid of a ceiling tile is made in Canada, but all the ceiling tiles, the Armstrong, CGC, CertainTeed, they're all made in the U.S.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I had to tell her, we can, the grid, there's one part that's not made in Canada, but the ceiling, unfortunately, the ceiling grid, they're all made in the U.S. Now, come to find out this week, BP, a Canadian company that's owned by CertainTeed, by Saint-Gobain, actually makes ceiling tiles. So I approached them on the idea of bringing products, bringing sampling in, see if the customers are interested, because for them, I can see a big,
20, 50, whatever it'll be, whatever you'll decide.
But that's what I mean. So,
3,000.
we were surprised they were making. Now they don't make a lot of different ceiling tiles, but at least they make something, right? So,
And it's something we were talking, and Mike O'Neill, our director of hardware operation, was saying that we've, with the transition into these uncertain times, home hardware has made it very easy for dealers to now have access to like a Canadian made list, like products of Canada or made in Canada, and then have all the labels so that they can label stuff in the store. But it was like, he brought it up. He said, it's like, why weren't we doing this anyways? Right? We're home hardware. We're a Canadian company. We're supporting these like home hardware. It back in the day, when your grandmother and your grandparents started, there was really the rural community hardware store, like that was the emblem of home hardware, and it was always about Canada and those communities. It's crazy that they don't we're not doing that today.
Yeah, there must be a lot of noise that just kind of, over the years, just kind of we forgot and whatever. And I guess maybe this could be a major shift in the Canadian history of we got to remember where we came from.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, how do we, our culture, like I said, the Canadian products, but how do we support our own economy versus just going another direction, right? So,
No, they say Americans are very patriotic, and rightfully so, and that's the part when living there was it's exciting, it rubs off on you, right? Because that kind of, they're proud to be Americans. But now you're starting to see that in Canada as well. Now people are proud that these certain products are made in Canada, right? You're starting to see that they want to support Canada. So in some ways, it's kind of nice to see this, right? To see this transition happening.
I mean, if people are proud of their country right now as much as they're about their hockey, they'll be in good shape.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
There's no better way to unite a country than a little bit of tariffs and just
a Canadian
USA
World
at
Cup,
hockey.
I know.
Right?
Canadian World Cup gold medal.
The Four Nations probably was one of those things that everybody's like, oh, Canada can't lose, right? Like it was.
I was one of those people.
We cannot.
We can't give the
I
satisfaction.
think it was one of those moments that we're all going to remember, like the 2010 gold. Where were you?
It literally was.
Which is funny because prior to that tournament really starting, I didn't care about it at all. But then all this political stuff happened. It's like, okay, now I'm into it.
Well, and it was angled as being like an like obviously Olympics didn't have for the past few years or the past few Olympics, they didn't have the professional best players there. And it was touted as this like, okay, let's not do the All-Star game, but let's try this tournament out, the best 4 teams, and let's put the best of the best in. But it could have been an All-Star game. Like it could have been like a pretty chill, like, a little bit of. But when that Canada-USA game with the first 3 fights you were at the game, eh?
No, I was at a game prior to that actually.
That's right.
But a few buddies of ours, actually, a few really good customers were at that game, and it was quite a time.
That's gotta be.
But
that's what kind of makes
it.
It made it exciting. The only negative about that, the whole booing of the flags, I thought that's very disrespectful either way you look at it. I thought there was no need for that. But other than the hockey part, obviously
it's tricky anytime there's a form of silent protest, right? Because and I'll credit to our outgoing prime minister for the way he said, like, hey, like, we're not booing you, right? Like, we're not booing the American people or the patriotism. And in fact, one of the best things to happen over this is that Canadian people have become more patriotic, right? Yeah. Which is much more akin to how Americans typically are, which, as you said, you admire, and I do too, right?
Yeah.
So
everything on the commercial side is focused. Like, you go on a commercial site, you have a site superintendent on site all the time. To your point of organization, right?
Builder, he's you
got one builder kind of moving on,
so
and
he's doing the best that he can.
100%. And then you got a project manager on the site. You got safety officer, and you have site meetings every week. Like that's exactly how complex, I guess. It's because there's a lot of elements in it. Yeah. That I think that's why everybody focus on the commercial side, and that's why it's probably more organized. Yeah. Where the residential, I agree 100%, is not as organized because they don't have
as much specs.
That's right.
Well, you're also
as much like the stuff that check boxes, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you're talking about thousands of dollars and a work change order on a house, thousands versus hundreds of thousands or potentially millions on a commercial project, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the stakes realistically are significantly higher. Now, for the person building the home, for example, for that builder, for the clientele, the stakes are extremely high. That's their personal money.
Right.
But we're talking about purchase orders that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's like this has got to go smoothly. You have to be more hands-on because nobody can afford those types of mistakes, right? Whereas on this side, they're typically easier to mitigate.
You're 100% right. Yeah, the mistakes are definitely more expensive.
Neither one are fun. If there's a problem, problems suck.
I know.
But it's a different scale, right?
It is. And then with labor issues, I mean, that's a real thing too. There's not enough labor to do all this work. So I think that's another layer that makes it frustrating on the commercial or residential side, right? So commercial side, you need more manpower, where that gives it more difficult. Yeah. Projects are lasted a lot longer than they should, probably because back in the day, 5-6 years ago, you can go in a multi-unit, like an apartment building, and you could have that built in literally 6 to 8 months. Now you're talking about a year and a half, 2 years, right?
Crazy.
Okay. So because of the labor shortage. So
that's in most of the. Yeah. Do you feel it's catching up? Like, are you sensing that from the?
That's it. That's a tough one. And it's funny, like we mentioned your political science degree. Well, I've got a degree in sociology and philosophy, but we work in the same industry, right? Which relates very little to what we do in a day-to-day sense, but also influences who we are. So I don't want to cheapen that experience.
But it's also it's a great asset for each of your roles.
100%. 100%. But the part of the issue, and I think we can all relate to this to some extent or another, is that the trades were very much shamed when we were growing up, because you got to go to university, and I'm glad I did, as I'm sure you guys are as well.
Yeah.
But people for the longest time haven't realized there's good money, there's good opportunity, there's great careers to be made in construction, in the trades. And just now people are starting to figure it out. It's like, man, the framer's making how much money? It's like, yeah, it's a good gig.
Yeah.
Like, you should really consider doing something in the trades. And,
And to your point, I think there's a lot more people getting in the trades now because of that. And that is so 100% true. Like, even me growing up with two families, my mom and dad being in construction world, right? You grow up and then that. So, but I had good grades in high school. So
really,
yeah, believe it or not, you know what I was. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I went to UNB. I was going to become a dentist.
Oh, cool.
So I always tell the story. Yeah, and then. My parents were like, "Oh my God! Like, finally somebody that's gonna do something in his life is going to UNB." I think that lasted a semester and a half.
Yeah.
And then I left university. I'm like, I cannot do 7 years. So obviously, to the highest point in my parents' life, we're gonna have a dentist family. What the hell? You're leaving to go work in construction? Like going to your point, like going in the trades? Like, are you kidding me? Like you. But then I went back to school.
Yeah.
I got a sales marketing degree. So I went there, and then my parents again thought, oh my God, he's gonna do something great. And then and then I end up being in the drywall world, right?
Yeah.
Being a drywaller myself and framing, and that's when I moved to the U.S. My mom's side of family, they all framers and drywallers, right? So that's how I kind of. But then when I look back, would I change anything? No, because look at where I am now today, right?
Yeah.
if we didn't enjoy it, we'd be on a podcast about it, right?
Yeah, there we go. So,
Hey, Mom.
But coming
We're on a
back
podcast.
coming back to your sales and marketing, right? You still you built, Thermalite.
yeah,
Yep.
You built.
That's where we
Arsenal
met.
Brothers,
Yeah, that's
built
right.
the
That's where
Moncton
we met,
division
yeah.
For Arsenal Brothers, right?
yeah, that's right. That's
Now
right.
you're building the Elmwood commercial, right? So your
Yeah,
sales and
and-
marketing still in the industry. You went on the trade, got your experience, seen how it's war, right?
And then no hands-on. And then
Exactly. And now
and-
what did you do? You got Jason. Jason. Is
That's
on your
right, and
team. So what is
Jason-
he? Jason was on the trade. You've seen an opportunity with him.
That's right. And
You're
Jason's
able
got a
to
similar
come on our
background. He
side.
went to college. He did the
Those
kind
we
of, you
have.
hear his story, very similar story, but you can relay that message to the customer. They don't like when I walk in a site, I know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about because I've
Yeah.
actually done it
Yeah.
with you
Yeah.
guys. So it's that connection that's really, to me,
Yeah.
it's really important, right? And it's a respect, and that's why I love this industry, right? But
Yeah.
hey,
When-
didn't need to be a dentist, right?
No.
No, I got
Nice-
best
nice
job in the
teeth,
world
though.
now.
Yeah.
I do golf with a dentist, and he's incredibly in debt. So it's
really?
not that fun at the end of the day. 'Cause
Most
he's
dentists
still paying off his debt. So
Most dentists are GCs too now.
Coming
They're in
back-
this world. They're dentists, and then on the
it's
outside,
true.
they're
That's
building.
Yeah.
Coming
Wow.
back to the industry and how that we were preached about go to the university. When we were in school, I remember when I would take shop class, we would be building birdhouses out of pine wood. Like, how do you want to teach? How do you want to go into a trade when you know here's a finishing nail with pine, and here's how you use a saw. That's about it.
Yeah.
And then so moving forward from that, and we're now we myself and one of the teachers helped build a program with a few schools in town, French schools and English schools, that we actually build baby barns now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we supply the material.
makes sense, right.
They are there, and they're there, and they're able to finish like a fully finished baby barn. We then take the baby barns and we put them up for sale, and we sell them, but basically no profit. We just break even, just to give back to the community, to show kids that there's an opportunity in here to keep building on that.
Yep.
And then there's another one that we did, same thing. So based on your skill set, you can say, do you want to do a baby barn or picnic tables? So they got picnic tables.
That's true. Yeah.
They probably make about 80 to 120 picnic tables a year.
Yeah.
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 And it's just we sell them back to the community, and it goes in all to the to the RV parks, the provincial parks,
Mhm.
and then people can spend time and enjoy a table that was built here in Moncton is giving back to our industry. They're making it's going to build future homes, to build future memories for future families, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just kind of you gotta where you came back from. You gotta look at where the foundation starts,
Yeah.
right? And if we don't do that, well, we're not going to be here in X amount of years, and maybe this company will never see a fourth generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's got to keep.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, and to get an experience like that early on, in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and doing it like, building a baby barn and seeing the result from that, you'd be like, oh, this is maybe something I kind of want to do here, right?
Yeah.
And if I would have although again, we were kind of all pushed. It was like, go to university.
You're
go to
catching
university.
up. You're doing your DIY YouTube set.
Yeah.
So you're catching up.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm getting
There you
there.
go.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it was always university. To
I
your
know.
point, always that was the best way of life, right?
Yeah.
And no knock to university. Obviously, you can get real good careers going to university, but
Yeah,
it's
for
not
sure.
the only thing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's being in construction or trade or
Yeah. Not that this guy, the future is bright for this industry. I think especially in Moncton, knowing that we continue to be in demand for space for distribution centers and whatnot, and there's more newcomers every year that and I think also the rural cities in the north and stuff like that, you're probably still seeing the like where Andre is from and all that. That's still people are migrating still towards these areas
Oh
here.
yeah, they're still going there, but I think eventually we're still seeing like younger people actually have a very strong attachment to it.
They're coming
sticking
back.
around. Well, they're coming back, but and you want to hope to see those people that they're building stuff in their communities. They're getting involved. They're trying to because the generations are passing, and it's like they have to keep going. If not, those little communities are just going to be maybe populated by immigration maybe down the road. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it might be which is the one where they're little gems and they have a lot of history there, and families have been built there, and I think it's good to come here, but I think it's good to see some of my wife's friends. Same thing is that they stick around, right? So it's good to see when we go up there, we always have a connection back to where it is. So.
I do have one last question, and I guess it'll kind of fall upon we're this whole talked a little bit about the tariffs and made in Canada and all that. Have you found yourself doing some things that you'd like to share that are maybe out of the box, or maybe they're just the common things that you're doing to support more local or to support more Canadian? Have you seen your purchasing behaviors change? Is there anything like that?
I've been asking a lot more questions.
Okay.
I talked to Max Canada, who I buy a lot of acrylics from, like bathtubs, that kind of stuff, showers, to better understand their manufacturing process, where their stuff comes from. I'm actually just outside Toronto next week to visit the Frankie Kindred manufacturing facility. They build all their stainless steel sinks here in Canada. So Steel Queen, Regionox, Frankie, Kindred, et cetera, et cetera. So for myself, I guess where I do a lot of the plumbing buying, I haven't really changed my habits yet. I'm trying to understand better how I might if it comes to that, potentially, right? Yeah. I've always wanted to support Canadian anyway, but now I'm more interested in, where do the virgin materials come from? How much of this is being imported? How are potential tariffs likely to impact it? And for actually a funny example today, I said to a guy, he asked me about toilets. I said, I saw a lot of American Standard. He said, I don't want American Standard, it's American. I said, well, actually, it's made in Mexico. If you must know.
Oh, that's the best. Just a little bit of research would just get you so
I did was read the box.
So far in life.
I would say I'm just same as you, just trying to get some information. Like I haven't changed my habits. For me, obviously living in the U.S. and living in Canada, I have pride in both countries, and I hate this whole tension.
Yeah.
So
we all do. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like so for me, I still like support North America as a whole, but obviously kind of still leaning. Obviously, I'm Canadian, so I always look at Canada first because that's where I live. That's where I'm from. But at the same time, living in another country, appreciate what they do there, and appreciating that we're all stuck in this mess right now, right? So hopefully.
And I think Canadians have never been ill-intentioned towards other countries in general. They've always, had the Canada flag when they go overseas, and the way that people overseas see them has always been in a positive light, and I think it's because of their intention to be a positive light everywhere they're going, and try to be as respectful as possible. So and Luc, you've sold everything in Florida. It's all done, moved out.
I got nothing. His dad has a few things, but I thank God he hasn't been there lately. He's been doing snowmobiling up north. I guess for me, growing up into a 100% owned Canadian company, really, has always been mindful of it. I guess in the back of my mind, right? So always trying to support Canada, and those products. Today, is there more of a light bulb that probably shines brighter than maybe it used to be when I see the logo or when I see it, mindful of it? 100%. But I think it's just, it hasn't really changed my buying patterns. But I think it's more educating maybe people around me or my circle, and just talking a bit more about it, and reminding them that Home Hardware is a 100% Canadian-owned brand, and you're really supporting your local entrepreneur and your local communities, because we are the ones that are giving back the money into the schools, into the sporting events, into the sick kids, or etc. Right, in the hospitals, and it's just
just employing a lot of people too, right?
280, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big machine, but we're happy to be here for 50 years, and we're here to be for another 50. So
I hope so. Well, I don't know if I'll still be. You're not going to be here in 50 years.
Are you kidding me?
Employed, maybe alive.
Wow, jeez. Talk about
You're
throwing
gonna
me
be
under
working
the
in
bus. What do you mean?
97?
I'm not going to be here in 50 years.
You're going to be
Dave's
working.
okay. We'll
So
take
50
you around the
years,
contractor
50
desk.
50.
Once
Technically,
a week.
97 years old. I'm sure I can find a job, right?
Yeah, don't worry. Once a week, 2
Why
hours.
not?
I don't plan to
Probably-
retire.
Is anybody else picturing this right now?
But all that.
Hardware greeter.
Yeah. The guy that keeps talking about how he wanted to be a dentist at the desk. What's his name again?
But
Go
that.
see the 97-year-old guy. He's got good stories.
I do agree with it. You say, like, I think, and all of you, I think it's getting more mindful, or getting more educated on the things that we are currently doing, and then seeing, like, okay, where are the products coming from, or what are the things that I can be just more aware of, that, when I use my dollar, I'm using it in the best way possible, because while probably 80 to 90% of our decisions at the end of the day are probably still pretty good. It's a time where it gives you that opportunity to get a little bit more of that education. But your point is like, I 100% agree, and I think it's really important to look at it from a macro level first, and be like, okay, like, can I support, like, a business is doing all the right things locally, that's doing it as close as possible from where I live, and then start there. And you see a lot of with the grocery store pictures and stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, there's strawberries from this country, and then there's strawberries from the USA, and all the strawberries from the USA are there. And I'm like, okay, that's a statement.
It's
but
like the car industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, the whole car industry is being affected. The parts are going back and forth, the tariffs and all that. But who owns your local car dealerships?
See
Ford,
that,
Chev,
right?
GM, Dodge.
Yeah.
It's your local people that run it.
That's right.
Think
Yeah,
about
exactly
it. So,
right.
at the end of the day, it's like, it's not their problem, or they're just in this mess.
Yeah.
They're more in it more.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, it is a tough spot
But
to be in.
it's still a local entrepreneur.
Yeah,
that
you can't-
has that. It's not a corporate store.
You can't stop
So,
supporting your
you gotta look
local
at-
store, because then you're beating the whole purpose,
That's it.
right?
It's
It's like,
it's
damn if
like-
you do, damn if you don't.
It's not like
So
they
it's
got.
just- You got to remember, as you said, that mindfulness of where the buying's going, where your money's going, is, I think that's where the key is in moving ahead.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, for the kids watching this, stay in school, don't become a dentist, be in the construction industry, and continue to support home.
Good
hardware.
message. Good message.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.